Namaste, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today we have a very special person. He is none other than Shree Vic Dicara ji. Vic ji has written a very famous book called The Authentic Art of Vedic Astrology Nakshatras. And astrology enthusiasts all over the world, they know Vic ji very well. He has written a lot of articles in his website, especially about the nakshatras. These days, people are very much focused on the nakshatras. So today, Vic ji is going to teach us about the nakshatra deities, nakshatra rulers, and if there are any kind of general rules regarding nakshatras. So, Vic ji, welcome to my channel.
Thank you so much.
I request you to teach us about the heart of Vedic astrology, the nakshatras.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So what should we talk about first?
In your book, Nakshatras, The Authentic Heart of Vedic Astrology, you have taken a lot of scriptures from Taittiriya Brahmana. So I think that is the most authentic text about nakshatras. So when we read Parashara Hora Shastra, we may not be seeing a lot of scriptures about nakshatras. So can you please give us a bare idea about Taittiriya Brahmana and what all are there in that text about the nakshatras?
As far as I am aware, Taittiriya Brahmana gives us really the only extensive source of information about nakshatras. Aside from Taittiriya, you just hear about their names. They just get named, and by naming them, you know which devata is in the nakshatra. And then if you look at astronomy and you look at Vedanga Jyotish, you get a lot of information there, but it's all mathematical or astronomical.
Okay.
Nothing is interpretive. Nothing is about the symbolism. Okay. So then for want of having some symbolism to use in interpretive astrology, people were left to their imagination, basically. That's true. So we find people coming up with a lot of ideas like, well, this Navamsha Pada and that is in this nakshatra, or this Dasha system uses this ruler for this nakshatra, so that nakshatra must have the symbolism of that Dasha ruler and this Navamsha Pada. Like just putting together whatever we had to try to figure out what these nakshatras are about. But there is this one bit that is preserved in the Vedas in Taittiriya Brahmana, which is 27 statements in a row. Like it's one actual section that's designed to teach about what these nakshatras, how they work in the kind of astrology that we do today, like how they work interpretively, what do they symbolize. And so there's a very beautiful section, as all the Vedas are. It's very beautiful. It's very well organized. It's really like in a sutra format, which means it's very condensed. There's a lot of information condensed into a few words. And every sutra has the same pattern. It tells you the name of the devata, then the name of the nakshatra, and then it tells you what the nakshatra needs, symbolically what it needs, and then symbolically what it produces. For all the 27 nakshatras. And from that, you can, that's like so much information compared to just having a list of names or degree coordinates. Okay.
Ji, I have a question, so many of my viewers ask me, from where we get the idea about nakshatras. And so we get a lot of information regarding nakshatras from Taittiriya Brahmana. And is there any other text which we can identify other than Varamehra text? Is there any other text which we can grasp, ancient text, which we can get some idea regarding these nakshatras?
Well, then only Vedanga Jyotish. From Vedanga Jyotish, you get all the astronomy that you need. To know what they are. Like, there's 13 in the third degrees. There's 27 of them. How do you calculate that? What are the stars that they're affixed to? And then you can also look at Siddhanta, Sri Siddhanta, and then it will tell you the same thing. It will tell you, this field of 13 and third degrees is affixed to X star. Yogatara of Chitra is here, and it'll give you a degree to that, and it'll say it's that far away from this field. So, but that's what I mean by astronomical. Like all the other information about the nakshatras from ancient texts is astronomical, not astrological, not interpretive.
Yes, yes, understood. Understood. One thing, like every nakshatra has a deity. Every nakshatra has a deity, and this deity has a lot of connection to the duties of the person. For example, Pushan, if you take Pushan, which is the deity of Revati, it's the Pushan's duty is to guide people and protect cattle and all that. So I have seen whomever has a 10th lord in Pushan, Revati, they will be having some connection to HR domain or dairy products related domain. And Vijay, please tell us, like, have you ever seen some wonderful information regarding career connected with the deities? Or
Yes,
how
yes.
can...
Yeah. Well, for the first couple of years that I was working with nakshatras, before I knew that there was Taittiriya Brahmana, I thought, well, the Rig Veda only tells me the names of the deities. Then that must mean that I should be able to know everything that I need to know about the nakshatra only from knowing the deity that's there.
Yes, yes.
That's why the first book that I wrote about the nakshatras is 27 stars, 27 gods. So I just explained the devatas for each nakshatra and show that this illustrates what the nakshatra is all about. So certainly you find that the person's key characteristics and their career and etc. is always related to the devata of the nakshatra. But how to utilize nakshatras in Jataka astrology, like for natal astrology, is also confusing.
That's true.
Because it's not the way that they did it in the Vedic times. They didn't care much about Jatak and astrology in the Vedic times. People were just doing their karmas and they didn't need predictions. Everybody knows what's going to happen when you do such and such yagya.
That's true. You said a very valid point.
Yeah.
Now you said a very, very valid point, you know. What you have said is a very valid point, because when we go through the Vedas, we may not see much stories about someone using nakshatras into their, or astrology into their personal life. And you said they already know their karma and they are following that. Isn't it a very interesting point?
Yeah. I mean, I do know that they did use this type of astrology because, for example, when Parikshit Maharaj is born, and he has the pundits come. I mean, Yudhishthira brings the pundits, and then they start talking about what his future is going to be. So they must have some kind of system, right?
Yes.
But we never hear about what the system is.
That's true.
Or like when Prithu appeared, then Brahma came and gave his whole fortune.
Yes.
So Brahma must know how to do it, but they never tell us how did they do that.
That's true.
So yeah, that's also confusing. But I was able to, piece together certain things from like older texts like Brihat Jataka or Brihat Samhita and things like that. Like I find personally that it's not only the moon's nakshatra which is important. The moon's nakshatra, everybody, that's simple.
That's true.
But your ascending nakshatra is quite important, and really the one which is difficult to know is the nakshatra of your midhaven. Like many people maybe don't even know what a midhaven is. It sounds like a Western technique.
Yes.
But a midhaven is the point of the sky that the sun will climb to.
That's true.
So it's not always the same as the 10th house cusp.
Yes.
Because the 10th house cusp in our system it's rigid. It's always 90 degrees to ascend it. But depending on the time of year, the midhaven might fluctuate. Could go past whatever. So I have found to an uncanny degree that a person's midhaven nakshatra really describes their career.
You're right.
And that their ascendant nakshatra really describes them as a person.
That's true. Even the ascendant nakshatra totally shows us where should we go in our life. What should be our life path? That's what I have seen. Now, when you said about moon's nakshatra, like it's very important also. For example, our dasha system starts from that. But in my place, there are certain general assumptions that If you are born in particular nakshatra, your life is, for example, Ardra nakshatra. Certain assumptions that, certain nakshatras are bad, certain moon nakshatras are good. This is only about moon nakshatras. If you are born in particular nakshatra, your life is totally good. Is there any kind of relevance to that kind of thought, thinking? Like,
this is just, more about the foolish ways that people think.
okay.
It's not even about astrology. It's more even about just how foolish we all are.
Mm.
We think, I mean, when we're kids, we grow up and mom and dad tell us this is good and this is bad.
Mm.
But how many of us have a mom and dad that explain to us what good is and what bad is?
That's true.
And then even if they do, how many of them give us something that actually makes sense?
Mm.
Like, good means it will help you achieve your objective, and bad means it will prevent you from achieving your objective.
That's true.
And so good and bad are terms which are relative. If I am like a very muscular guy, right, then I can play rugby. I'm
Yeah.
really good at rugby, but I'm not probably very good at sewing
Mm.
because my fingers are probably bigger than the world, right? How can I even move a needle? So am I good or am I bad? It depends on what you want me to do. If you want me to play rugby, I'm great. But if you want me to sew your blouse, then I'm terrible. So good and bad, like Ardra Nakshatra, is it good or bad? No, everything is good and bad. But you have, what the trick is, if you're born with Ardra Nakshatra, you have to figure out, what am I good for?
That's true.
And that's the basis. That's the whole beauty of the whole Vedic culture. You have a Shudra, you have a Brahmana, you have a Vaishya, you have a Kshatriya. Is a Shudra bad and the Brahmana good? No, the Brahmana is good for X and the Shudra is good for Y.
Yes.
They're good for different things.
They have
The
to
problem is, if
coexist.
you're a Brahmana and you have to work like a Shudra, you don't feel happy. Or if you're a Shudra and you have to take the responsibilities of a Brahmana, you'll be completely ineffective.
Mhm.
You won't, so will you be happy there. So that's what I think. Basically, when you have an Ardra Nakshatra, there's going to be certain things that you're not good at. But guess
true.
what? When you have Revati Nakshatra, there's also going to be certain things that you're not good at. Like, for example, when it comes time to like be tough and be disciplined and discipline people, or just be detached, not care what people think, then great. What about Rohini Nakshatra? People like Rohini Nakshatra, but guess what? I have Rohini moon.
Okay.
There's a lot of difficult things about having a Rohini moon. You can never just not care. You always care about everything, and everything gets on your nerves. So it's not good for that. Whereas Mula Nakshatra, you can eat, or like take like a Bhadrapada, especially.
I'm Purva Bhadrapada.
Yeah, you can really just like, all right, forget it. Yeah, I didn't need that. I'm gonna move on. Forget that. But Rohini, or I don't care. They said that. I don't need to know what everybody thinks about me, but I can't do that. So my point is, we all have good and bad.
That's true.
And the problem is when we're trying to do the thing that we're not good at, or when our people around us, see, that this is where it becomes sad. If your family or your community or your people around you don't like the thing, don't value the thing that you're good at. So, for example, people who have a lot of Saturn in their chart, we're really good at finding your mistake. We're really good at finding mistakes. Well, that's not very popular. So people will think Saturn is bad because people don't generally like having their mistakes found. But Saturn is good because we need to find the mistakes. The problem is actually that the community is bad. The community is not accepting of our strength. So you'll find that also with an Ardra, typically, like an Ardra or Mula moon native, especially when you're female.
Okay.
Especially for females, these are really difficult nakshatras to have in typical societies because nobody wants a female to be acting like that.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So you have to try to find people that are also good, this is where compatibility comes in, is you have to, when you have a certain placement like an Ardra moon, you have to find people that want an Ardra moon person around, and then you'll be happy and fine.
Now, when you spoke about Mula Nakshatra, Vijay, can you please tell us, about Mula Nakshatra deity and Mula Nakshatra ruling planet Ketu? Because Mula Nakshatra deity is very controversial deity. So, can you please teach us about this Mula Nakshatra a little more?
Sure. This one is easy for me because I really love this one. So she's Niriti, right?
Nirti, yes, Nirti.
Yeah. So the other fascinating thing, just first of all, about learning about the Vedic pantheon, they call it, is to realize how many synonyms there are, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that will all of a sudden make it a lot less intimidating to learn Vedic gods and goddesses, is to realize there's a lot less than it seems like there are. Because actually, mostly there's just different names for the same one. So Niriti basically is Durga.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, the female Rudra. So Niriti is very interesting because she's going to destroy things, and it's also so fascinating that in Vedic culture we have a female.
That's true.
Destroyer, and it's really important actually to understand what the purpose of these nakshatras are and what the purpose of destruction is. So a good image to bear in mind when you're trying to understand Mula Nakshatra is a lioness. Like Durga rides on a lion, right? A lion.
Lion, yeah. Yes.
So if you consider lionesses are female, so they're going to be mothers and nurturing and kinder and gentler than the male. But if you go and threaten her children, you are not going to come out alive. Right? So that is the correct use of destructive power, of anger, and of all the things that we describe as negative are only negative when they're not applied in that way to protect innocent people, to prevent wrongs from being done, to prevent injustice. That's when anger and force and assertiveness is really, really desired. And that's why we have a female destroyer, which is showing this is the mother angry. This is the angry mother. This is what happens. Why would you? She's not out to harm you. But if you make her angry, that means you've done something wrong. And so that's really the thing about Niriti, is that she's described in the Rig Veda as, if you look at her from one side, excuse me, she has black hair. And she looks kind of, black hair is not tied. And it's just like, but if you look at her from the other side, she has blonde hair.
Oh.
And it's beautifully tied. So it really depends upon which angle which side of the fence are you on?
Okay.
Are you the one who's doing wrong, or are you the one who's doing right?
Okay.
If you're the one who's doing wrong, then this lioness is not going to be gentle with you. Okay. She's not going to appear to you in a friendly way. She's going to look like a fierce, crazy ghoul that just walked out of the cremation ground. But if you're the one who's trying to protect people and trying to do good, then she's going to come to you in that nice way, that way that looks very gentle. So that's the nature of Niriti. And Niriti means without substance.
Okay.
So it means she will take away the thing. She'll destroy stuff.
Okay.
So what we should try to be taking away, the problems, the flaws, the faults. We should try to destroy the flaw. And both Niriti is very related with Rudra, because they're the same person, or their husband and wife.
Okay.
So their two nakshatras are also very similar. Ardra is very similar with Mula.
That's true.
They have very, very similar nature. So all the stuff that we say about Mula is also very, very true for Ardra.
Okay. When I read about nakshatra deities, I have a special interest in Yama. So his nakshatra Bharani has always captivated my interest in what exactly this nakshatra wants to tell us, because the deity, the symbol and everything is a little bit confusing. So when suppose, isn't it? It's a very, to be frank, like, let me tell you, like, when it comes to Bharani Nakshatra, I'm confused how to interpret it. So,
Hmm.
can you please give us some insights about Bharani, Yama, and that its symbol womb?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a really, really, really interesting one. Of course, also classically, this is the last nakshatra. This is
Yes,
another
yes.
problem that people, modern, like we have this thing that now we're thinking
Ashwini is the first
Ashwini is
nakshatra.
first, right?
Yes, yes.
But really, Kritika is
The
first
first
and
nakshatra.
Barney's last.
Yes,
And that's Yama is the last thing that you deal with in your life.
that's true.
So that is also just a summary of Barney. It's like very the bottom line, the judge, the evaluation. And that's the nature of Yama Raj. He's the judge. When everything is over, he's the one that judges it.
Yes.
And then you become responsible for
Okay.
your deeds. So the Barney Nakshatra, and the word Barney means to carry.
Yes.
And this is why it's the yoni, because the yoni carries the child.
Yes.
Right. So like when you're pregnant, then you're Barney. You're carrying. Like in English, we say you're carrying.
Yes.
And then also the picture is for the hips, right? And the pelvis, because that's the section of your body that carries. That's the
Yes.
Barney. It carries your weight.
Yes.
But the thing that's really fascinating about it is this is where birth comes from. But this is Yamaraj, who's the death, who's the death god. He takes care of you after death. So it's like you say, it's really complex and confusing. Why do we have the womb with the god of death? But it's really because it's not so much that this is birth, although you can have some nice things that you can say about this and how
Yes.
the death, the death leads to rebirth and all this stuff. But it's not really so much that the yoni is a symbol of birth in this case. The yoni is a symbol of intense responsibility.
Okay. Okay.
Intense responsibility from this thing. You from this thing, you're creating a family, and that is creating a lot of responsibilities. It's going to change the rest of your life. You're going to be responsible to all of these people, and you're going to
Okay.
have to support Barney,
That's true.
all of these people. So from the yoni comes all the things that we have to support and dedicate ourselves to. People just think of the like yoni as something that yay, let's get happiness and pleasure from yoni, yay. But yoni actually is where you get everything that's like heavy. You can get children, and now you're a mom and you're a dad, and you can't have fun anymore. Now you have to be responsible and wake up for your kids and go to sleep for your kids and cook for, which is fun if you're a good person. You know what I mean? But it's not the same kind of fun like that.
That's true.
That like fun. So that's what Yamraj is going to judge. How well did you stick with your responsibilities? That's what Dharma means. He's also called Dharmaraj.
Yes. Yes.
Dharma means it's your responsibility. Did you do it? Like my son has a responsibility to take out the garbage twice a week. He never does it. So he's incurring some bad karma there.
Even
He's got to do his responsibility.
I have a person in my family with Bharani Nakshatra. He's highly irresponsible. He has a family.
Irresponsible?
He's highly irresponsible. Every day, some or other crisis coming into his life.
Yeah, I think so. Usually, this is also the interesting thing about astrology and how symbolism works. But usually, like for example, if a person has a prominent Bharani Nakshatra, they usually will be very responsible. However, sometimes you find the exact opposite.
Yes, yes, yes.
And it's not only for Bharani, but for everything. Like, so if somebody has a very prominent Jupiter, they're usually very moral and ethical. However, sometimes it's the exact opposite.
You're right.
Because of the way that symbols work, sometimes when something is prominent, if you do something weird to it, you flip it exactly around and it becomes the exact opposite of the thing that you expect.
Okay. So when for example, if a nakshatra has two sides, we need to focus on the better side to have a better life. That is
No, I think every nakshatra has a use. Every nakshatra has something which is good at. This is also actually later on in the Taittiriya Brahmana, after the part that I translated, there's more stuff about nakshatras. Okay. And they pray to the nakshatra for for it to do something for them. And so it
Oh, okay.
reveals what the nakshatra is good at. I think I included it in the appendix of that book. Um, so like every nakshatra has something that it's good at, and if you are born under that nakshatra, you should realize that's probably what I'm good at, and I should try to apply myself in that direction.
Okay.
I'll be frustrated as long as I'm trying to live for other people who are telling me to do other things, that this is not valued. If you're lucky, then you have a nakshatra which your community and your society easily values. But if you're not lucky, then you have to work a bit
Okay.
to figure out how to get it right.
Okay. Now, when we come, now I just would like to ask about the rulers. From the Vedas, we get an understanding. Okay, this nakshatra is ruled by this planet. For example, Rohini is ruled by moon. Then Bharni is ruled by. Bharni is ruled by Venus. Then Ashwini is ruled by Ketu. So, is there any other text than Taittiriya Brahmana where we can see the rulers also? Planetary
actually, you
rulers.
don't. This is actually kind of controversial and needs correction for many, many, many people.
Okay.
Many people assume that the Vedas talk about nakshatras having, for example, Ketu, Ashwini. They don't.
Okay.
They don't
Okay.
mention it at all. It's not in
Okay.
Taittiriya Brahmana at all. It's only
Okay.
deities. Only deities.
Only deities. Okay.
Yeah. It is only when you have the astrological texts that talk about dasha systems.
Okay.
For the dasha systems, they say this nakshatra relates to this planet. Not that this planet is ruling this nakshatra or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they don't keep it. It's not constant. It's not like, okay, Ashwini's Ketu and Rohini's moon, and it's always that way. It's not. It's completely different.
Oh.
It depends on what dasha system you use.
Okay. Okay.
If you use
Okay.
Vimshotri dasha, then it's the one that you're used to.
Yes.
Ashwini, Ketu, Rohini, moon. But if you use Ashtotari, it's different.
Yes, it is.
So there's actually no permanent correlation between the planet, a planet, and a nakshatra in this way. Although it's very hard for people to stop thinking that way. And
we are too much. We are too much into Vimshotri Dasha. We get that feel that this is the ruler of this nakshatra.
Yeah, I actually had one astrologer tell me that. I think his name was Dilip Kumar. I think he told me, you know what? I don't care. We just used Vimshotri Dasha for everything, so who cares? I thought that was honest. And I think also before, what I hope that I contributed was that I publicized the Taittiriya Brahmana so that people can at least know it. But before that was done, we didn't have any other options. I mean, I know myself too. I didn't have any other options. I'm trying to figure out what the nakshatras are. I was entertaining all kinds of theories. So, I mean, the way that we figure out signs, zodiac signs, is what planet rules it.
Okay.
I mean, that if you know the planet that rules the sign, you know half of everything you need to know about the sign. So, naturally, why not do the same thing with the nakshatra? Probably works the same, right? No, it doesn't. But when we don't have any other information to go on, that's all we did. So people were doing a lot of that kind of stuff, like saying, okay, this is the Ashwini is Ketu, but then the first quarter of Ashwini is Ketu Mars, and then the second is Ketu Venus, and the third is Ketu, because of the way the Navamshas go.
Yes.
And so they would try to come up, or the first is like a fiery Ketu, and then an earthy Ketu, and an airy Ketu, or you could say Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. We were coming. I was myself doing it as well, coming up with all kinds of ways to try to put some interpretive content into the nakshatras.
Okay.
But once I discovered that there is a record of the way that the Vedic people thought of the interpretive content, then I realized I don't need to do that.
Okay.
And also, actually, it was even before that I realized this is not the right way to think about nakshatras. We're just treating nakshatras as if they were zodiac signs. They're not zodiac signs. They're different things.
Okay.
And that's when I tried to say, let's do 27 stars, 27 gods. And I think just by knowing the god of the nakshatra, it should be enough.
What I have seen is that when we bring the deities, the horoscope analysis become very very clear, like what this person has to do. Up to some extent, we even if we are not bothered about the rulers, the deities play a bigger part in astrology. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I
And
think so.
Vijay, do you think that the Vedic people, they lived in a very technically advanced and scientifically progressed environment than us? Like still we are thinking, how can the zodiac be divided like this? Don't you think so? Like I always think they might have lived in a very advanced scientific community.
Yeah, I
Isn't
agree
it?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
So these were the questions which I had. If you
Oh,
would like
great.
to share anything special to my viewers, we will be very
Because
grateful.
one other interesting thing popped into my mind about the deities and how important they are. You know how there's this tradition of naming the child, right?
Yes, yes,
It's very interesting how now they have this system, like if the certain nakshatra should tell the first letter,
yes.
but the Vedic system was they also named the children on the nakshatra. Like Arjun is called Palguni.
Oh, okay.
It's one of Arjun's names is Palguni, but that's because that's when he was born.
Yes, there are like Arjun and Falgunan. We have a prayer in Hindu community. There is a prayer like Arjun and Falgunan Parthan. That is a mantra to cast the evil things and to
Oh,
be mentally strong.
nice. Nice.
I think there are 12 names of Arjuna. I don't know the mantra. There are 12 names of Arjuna. They recite it before they sleep, or whenever they are afraid, they recite that mantra. Arjunan,
Nice.
Falgunan, Parthan, something like that. All are
And
Arjuna's
I like
names.
that. Oh, I tell you, it's really not fun to like not be born in India when you're very into when you're into Vedic things. It's really advantageous to be born in India and grow up with all this stuff and have this stuff all around you. But the interesting thing about the way that it was done in the Vedic times is they didn't do that with nakshatrapadas. Actually, there's no
Oh,
such thing as nakshatrapadas until
okay.
recently.
Okay.
They would say you're, for example, they would say, "Oh, you're born in Mula. We have to name you after Nirti." So they would have to pick some name of goddess Nirti
Okay.
that would match your character.
Okay.
And the other thing is that name would not really necessarily be the name that you would go around town telling
Okay.
people, "Hi, I'm Niriti." You wouldn't say that, but that's the name that you would use when you do something important,
Okay.
like when you do a Vedic ceremony, or when you have your, like when you have things done for you, legal documents, things like that.
That's
And
really
that's
nice.
interesting too. There's so
Yes,
many
yes.
ways that the culture has changed.
That's true. That's true. The culture has changed a lot. Nowadays, people think that, we have to name the child according to the nakshatra. But this is a very new information for me. And I could relate with a lot of things. Like, I'm getting a lot of insights from that.
Great.
And okay. Is there anything
Thank you so
extra?
much.
Like viewers were asking you, please bring us some information regarding nakshatras. I'm not a very big expert in nakshatras, but I know that. But you know a lot of things. Like that's why you wrote a book about nakshatras. It is very nice. I mean, leave the planets, leave the other things, but nakshatras we should know as an astrologer. We should have an in-depth information about the nakshatras. So is there anything else you would like to say from?
No, I just want to say thank you to you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for this session, Vikji. We all are grateful to you. I hope you will come back to our channel again.
Thank you.
And
I would be happy to.
thank you and bye.
Thank you very much.